Pozdrav svima, përshëndetje të gjithëve. I'm going to continue in English because the lingua franca of the Digital Summit is English. It gives me great honor and great privilege to be here today moderating this panel on digital society and digital economy for the Western Balkans with distinguished speakers, people who are at the front of it and people who are able to actually influence decisions and shape the markets, and not just shape the markets, shape the government, and bring us to where we want to go as a region jointly. You can see we have many distinguished speakers joining us today, and just a few lines on my end in why this is actually important and why this is the right time for this region to talk about this issue. There's been recently a study, actually I think it was last year, there was a study that showed only one point increase on a digitalization index contributes to 0.63% contribution to the GDP for the region. More than that, the reason why we decided to focus on open data specifically is because there's recently been a study showing that the EU data economy itself by 2020 will reach around 500 billion contribution, which is around 4% of the GDP as well, and it's expected to rise up to 1 trillion by 2025. For the Western Balkans, taking a broader picture on it, there's a reason, it's clear why there's a digital summit in the Western Balkans. It's a region that, first of all, has very close proximity to Europe, and Europe is obviously one of the leaders in this area. But more than that, it's also a region that has high connectivity, it has a very dynamic tech sector, and it has definitely a lot of willingness and commitment by the governments in the region to actually contribute and be a part and be a leader in this agenda as well. I was moderating a session before this on open data and what it can do to illuminate problems and to illuminate real-world problems and solve them. So I'm bringing a few insights from that session as well to this one. It was interesting, actually. It was a different ecosystem, academics, civil society, governmental representatives, all of whom agreed that open data had a massive potential in the Western Balkans. There's momentum, there's willingness, there's opportunity, there's demand, and there's also people who are able to use it. But it needs a little bit of that aha moment, so it needs something extra into it. And I think having the chance, having the privilege of having such distinguished speakers here, we're going to start to unpack what that is and what do we need to go one step further. So we'll start with Ms. Odeta Barvolushi, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as Advisor to the Prime Minister.
Advisor to the Prime Minister at the moment. Advisor to the Prime Minister.
Yes, that's what I said. Advisor to the Prime Minister. And I was hoping you could give us a little bit of insight on how you see that Albania is already using its tech sector and open data in particular to drive digital economy and digital society.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to start with a few thanks for the hosts and the organizers of this summit, and also congratulate all countries of the region for signing yesterday a landmark agreement, which is the roaming agreement. And I would also like to start from where you left your intervention, your introductory words, primarily with the political will and the vision, because when we speak of digital society and digital economy, it's not only about digitalization, but it's primarily about what sort of societies in the region we want and what sort of economies we want. So when we speak about digitalization, I think it's very important, particularly in the context of this summit, to put it, to think of it and to go back to think of it in the framework of the EU Commission strategy for the transformation and integration of the Western Balkans published last year, and also of the political vision which was at the center of Berlin process, having digital agendas for of the pillars of regional economic area. So when we think of this vision, of course, we think of the digitalization of economy and society as part and parcel and in tandem with rule of law, of stronger and more developed economies in the region, better relations between our countries, and also, of course, better cooperation in the area of security. So In response to your question of what we are doing and how we are using digitalization, I would mention three areas and three key pillars which I think are across the countries represented here in this panel and in this summit. First is how digitalization helps in our society to strengthen rule of law. And here I have in mind what we are doing with regard to making our public administration more transparent, more efficient, particularly with regard to offering online public services. And here, only through the e-service in the past year, we have around 1,600 public services offered to citizens, to which citizens have access. Also, for the past year, we may a highlight of what we can take stock of digitalization of public administration is the government interoperability platform, which, in my understanding, is the first in the region, which also already works and filters around 49 government electronic registers in the country and facilitates the exchange in real time of data in a reliable form from public institutions. It's also important to mention here, and some of what we are doing with regard to public administration were already mentioned by the Deputy Minister of Telecommunication and Infrastructure. What we are doing with regard to the platform of open data, where citizens can find raw data for their own use, for their public use of the costs, of expenses of different institutions. And this is where the data and information is integrated through the electronic systems of the public institutions. A second component with regard to strengthening rule of law, and I think this also applies across the board in the region, is how digitalization helps to curb down informal economy. And we know in our countries we have a strong legacy of having a very strong percentage of informality of our economies. Because of digitalization, now we can see that every year businesses can submit their reports of balance sheets, of their expenses, of all their activity to the National Center of Businesses. And it is a short objective of the Albanian government to have what we call now a bill management and control system, by which we would be able also to trace in real time the process of reimbursing the VAT to businesses. And this has been a long-term objective which mainly comes bottom-up, which comes from the businesses, both national, regional, and international, or foreign investors, who voiced this problem as a persistent problem in decades. Another component in which it's important to have digitalization of public services in relation to business always is to have a unified or integrated database, not only national but regional, with regard to businesses. And this is something that chambers of commerce are working closely together. It may sound as a bit remote from the objective of strengthening rule of law, but it goes very much towards that direction of raising transparency, but also raising the knowledge and information of citizens about who invests in the country, how clear the businesses are, and how the field is structured. And we have this debate with many investors in the country from neighboring countries. I had the conversation only a few days ago with investors from neighboring country of Albania, European member states, who would say, we brag that we are the first investor in the country, and according to your data, we result to be the fifth. And the fact that in 2019 we still don't have integrated system for the data of businesses, I think that is a challenge we come across in all countries of the region. The second component, in addition to rule of law, and I think this is very important, is how digitalization can help our societies become more inclusive. And by this I mean inclusive internally, from region to region. We have very high economic differences, but social differences from region to region, and this can be only exacerbated by digital literacy or lack lack of it. And I remember from a personal experience, I can recall here a personal episode in a big city in a member state, if I recall correctly, in Hamburg, that would see tens of immigrants primarily sitting around and sitting outside an Apple store. And the first time I saw that, I was quite surprised, and I asked my friends, why are they sitting outside an Apple store? And the answer was that, well, here they have Wi-Fi for free, and they may not be registered or may not have access elsewhere, but there it was for free, and that's how they were gathering. And that made me think of how digitalization, in fact, helps create new public forums, or public spheres, if you like, not one, but many, in a much more democratic way than public institutions can. And this, in the Albanian case, is very closely related to one landmark reforms we are carrying through, which is in the area of education, and particularly of higher education. As of from January this year, we launched what we call the National Pact for University. And part of this initiative is also the digitalization of secondary data, primarily. And only this week, we launched what is called the e-library for all faculties of public institutions. And for anyone who would be interested in the data, I can provide them. We are speaking about an e-library of more than 48,000 accessed online journals, which, of course, for our colleagues from member states, they may sound a very limited number for someone who works in research and who works in higher education. But for a country like ours from the region, it's quite a large depository of secondary data that can be checked, that can help also as a sort of safeguard against plagiarism. Also, between Albania, North Macedonia, and Kosovo, we all have a commitment to create what is so-called the Regional Research and Development Cloud, where all businesses would put primary data and collect those primary data and have them accessible for startups, for economies, but also for different sectors of public sectors. Related to this, I would also mention what is called the Platform for Youth Transparency, which is related primarily to plagiarism. And it comes a bit remotely from informality of economy, but it's very much related to the efficiency, to the quality of research, to what services we are giving to students. And this is a platform which we are aiming to make accessible to all students and staff, but also which will be administered by what is called the national network of higher education institutions, mainly not by officials of the Ministry of Education, but mainly by those practitioners of the field themselves, will be able to do a peer check or peer control of the authenticity of research and research products which are published in the country. In this second pillar, I would also mention very briefly a recent initiative which we launched in February 2019, which is called the Tech Space, and which is being administered and led by the Albanian National Agency of Information and Information in close cooperation with public universities. And that is a space which provides both educational but also practice-based, with guidance offered to ITs but also of students of degrees of fields related to innovation and digitalization. We have only in the span of less than a month, we have already 400 students who use it regularly, just being registered with their ID card. So that's very important. Again, it goes in the direction of inclusivity, of sort of breaking down the social and economic barriers. And the fact that we are working primarily with public universities and public institutions, I think it's very important to highlight that element of inclusiveness. The third and last component, before I give the floor to my colleagues, of this vision, in addition to rule of law and in addition to inclusive societies and better and fairer societies, I would mention the component of connectivity. And here I'm not talking about digital connectivity primarily. That is very important. We have Other speakers this morning have spoken about what is called the connectivity gap between the European digital market and, if we may call the Western Balkans market, even though it's an emerging market, it's still a work in progress, and that's what we need to work towards. And in that connection, the commitments of the European Commission are very much welcome to help us with the country-specific database for each country, how we are complying to the acquis and how we are implementing commitments in this area. But when I speak of connectivity, I also have in mind connectivity between our countries. And one of the aims and objectives, political objectives, part of the political vision of Berlin process, of regional initiatives, is how to bring down barriers between people and societies in our region. And yesterday's agreement was a demonstration of a will to do that. So that is very important to have in mind. We are working with North Macedonia. We have already a political commitment expressed during the visit of the Prime Minister Zaev in Tirana to build joint, or to carry on with the work on joint border control points, and that would require that we integrate our data system for the border in terms of both of citizens, also of goods, and working more towards strengthening cooperation in the security front. So when we speak of organized crime, we need to have unified and integrated databases. And we cannot just commit to a political vision of having less border barriers between our countries if we don't have the trust to go towards that, towards integrating the databases. As a country which will take the presidency next year, or the chairmanship, or the organization will take over the organization of the next summit, digital summit, would say that it's very important at this point to think of skills, to think of services and access. And these three should be our pillars also, which drives us forward in our political vision. More access to citizens, more better service, more efficient services to them, but also more skills for our people. We know 4 years ago, everyone in the region was discussing primarily infrastructure in terms of transport, in terms of energy. Today we see that even if we manage to overcome all administrative and political hurdles between our countries and build roads, if we don't have interest of young people to go from one country to the other and build businesses, joint businesses with citizens from neighboring countries, but instead choose to go elsewhere in the EU, then we haven't done much in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very comprehensive overview, and actually touching upon some of the issues we wanted to discuss as well around regional cooperation and looking at it from a regional perspective, and what does that look like. Mr. Jovanovic, you're hosting the Digital Summit this year. We heard from the Prime Minister yesterday about Serbia's strong commitments to digitalization. What is driving this commitment, and what are some of the early results that you're seeing? Both to digitalization and open data. We had a presentation earlier about the great progress that's been made here.
Hvala Leila na pitanju. Ja ću nastaviti svoj odgovor, kako neko reče, na zapadno-balkanskom jeziku. Digitalizacija je prioritet Vlade Republike Srbije i stvarno sjajna prilika da kroz projekte digitalizacije napravimo značajne rezultate na raznim poljima kada je u pitanju Republika Srbija. Jedna od prvih koraka koje smo uradili pre 1,5 godina je formiranje nacionalnog portala otvorenih podataka, a već u sledećem koraku, negde pre malo manje od 1 godina, pa eto može da uđe i naš rezultat za poslednjih 1 godina, je donošenje zakona o elektronskoj upravi, koji definiše infrastrukturu elektronske uprave, koji definiše obavezu državnih organa da elektronski postupaju, ali je i definisao obavezu državnih organa i lokalne samouprave da otvaraju podatke na tom portalu, nacionalnom portalu otvorenih podataka. Dakle, otvaranje podataka o Srbiji je zakonska obaveza. Zašto smo to uradili? Pa jasno je svima, dve stvari su ključne. Jedno je transparentnost, otvorena uprava, transformacija javne uprave i naravno borba protiv korupcije, a s druge strane svesni da su ti otvoreni podaci nafta 21. veka za start-up i IT kompanije. Tu smo se suočili sa problemima kako sprovesti taj zakon, kako tu obavezu sa državnih organa sprovesti u delo i imati što više setova otvorenih podataka na nacionalnom portalu s jedne strane, znači kako ponudu povećati, a s druge strane kako i potražnju povećati, kako obezbediti kvalitet podataka i kako obezbediti da ti podaci stvarno budu korisni, stvarno budu nafta 21. veka za naše IT kompanije. Veliki značaj je sigurno i opredeljenost Vlade Republike Srbije da se sa privrede koja se bazira na investicijama pomerimo na privredu koja se bazira na inovacijama. Pa i ovaj digitalni summit pokazuje tu transformaciju i Vlade Republike Srbije, ministarstva i našeg društva. U tom smislu velike stvari su urađene kako bi podstakli ovaj segment start-upova, inovacija i preduzetništva. Uložili smo značajna sredstva, oko 100 miliona evra, u razvoj naučno-tehnoloških parkova, dogradnju parka u Beogradu, u Novom Sadu, u Nišu, u Čačku, investicije u nove start-up centre, u Institut za fiziku ili Biosens institut u Novom Sadu i ulažemo značajna sredstva u izgradnju velikog državnog, rekao bih, regionalnog data centra. Po prvi put Republika Srbija gradi državni data centar koji će biti u Kragujevcu, kapaciteta oko 1000 rekordmana, gde želimo da imamo mesta i za komercijalne korisnike, pored elektronske uprave i mesta za komercijalne korisnike. Takođe smo značajno promenili zakonsku regulativu i finansijski pospešili razvoj i preduzetništva, oni koji otvaraju svoje start-up kompanije, ali i finansijske podstreke smo uveli za one koji stvaraju, proizvode intelektualnu svojinu u Srbiji, koji stvaraju dodatnu vrednost u Srbiji. Znači, s te strane smo dosta potpomogli onu stranu potražnje. Najzad, ono što je Vlada Republike Srbije uradila i Kancelarija za IT i e-upravu, shvatajući da moramo naći druge načine, a ne da samo silom i sprovođenjem zakona pospešimo otvaranje podataka, je da napravimo takmičenje. Napravili smo takmičenje i na strani ponude i na strani potražnje i zajedno s našim partnerima u programu otvaranja podataka, to je UNDP, znači Program razvoja Ujedinjenih nacija, tu su naši partneri Fond za dobru upravu Ujedinjenog kraljevstva, Svetska banka i Švedska agencija za međunarodnu saradnju. Organizovali smo takmičenje i grantove. Grantove koje smo dali i onima koji otvaraju podatke i proglasili smo ih šampionima otvorenih podataka. Znači, napravili smo takmičenje između državnih organa u otvaranju podataka, a zatim smo napravili takmičenje i za one koji treba da koriste te podatke. Tako da je u toku evaluacija ponuda, na primjer, napravili smo 3 izazova, 3 zahteva državnih organa kako da se nad njihovim podacima reše određeni problemi. Na primjer, ukrstili smo podatke Agencije za medicinska sredstva sa podacima koje se tiču lokalnih samouprava i želeli smo da recimo da vidimo kakva je raspodela lekova po Srbiji. Da li negde ima više lekova u apotekama, negde manje. A onda smo nad tim podacima otvorenim dali grantove firmama da naprave odgovarajuće analize i podatke. Moj zaključak je da je država uradila sve što može sa svoje strane u ovih godinu dana da promoviše otvorene podatke, da promoviše preduzetništvo i fokus privrede na inovacijama. Verovatno je sudbina 600 ekonomija takvih da je potencijal jednostavno i ljudski i kadrovski nedovoljno veliki i pravi odgovor leži na ujedinjavanju regiona, na stavljanju potencijala i sa strane ponude i sa strane potražnje na jedno mesto. Jučerašnji fantastičan primer prevazilaženja svih barijera, potpisivanje regionalnog sporazuma o roamingu ili potpisivanje bilateralnog sporazuma o priznavanju elektronske identifikacije dve zemlje kada je u pitanju EID je pravi primer za to. Već sad znamo da smo zajedno sa Makedonijom pokrenuli portal gde imamo zajednički registar privrednih registara na jednom mestu. Eto prilike da na taj portal i ostale ekonomije postave svoje podatke. Sigurno je put i kod otvorenih podataka u formiranju zajedničkog portala otvorenih podataka i integraciji i onih koji žele da otvore podatke ili moraju, kao što je slučaj kod nas, i onih koji te podatke treba da koriste.
Thank you. That's actually a wonderful segue into the presentation or into the deliberation of Mr. Lecic. I want to bring out a couple of data points. So UNDP has been working with Oxford Internet Institute at understanding the online labor and how's that playing out in the Western Balkans as well, and what is the knowledge economy looking like. It was interesting, we had a presentation, we'll have a more in-depth one this afternoon, and there's around, on one platform alone, there's over 40,000 freelance workers, especially in tech, working in tech, and where the product itself is digital. So, on that note, Mr. Lecic, could you maybe give us a little bit of a sense in terms of what you see are the enabling conditions from your perspective for a digital economy, and where you think some of the strengths and the potential for the workforce are?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting us to being part of this very great initiative. So we are supporting this, and I heard a lot of collaboration, integration, discussions, and so on. And what we are doing in SAP, it's recently we have launched something called Intelligent Enterprise. And what does it mean, this intelligence? So I would like to simplify. So we have, first of all, the three segments. If you want to manage any organization or any company, so there are three segments. First of all are the people, then the processes, and the data. And if we are talking about the people, here we have the customers or citizens, if we are talking about the public sector. So we need to satisfy the citizens with enabling them some commerce platforms and so on to approach the data. Then we have our employees who supports this organization. So we need to satisfy our employees to stay within these organizations, as well as the partners that are working within the organization, or the partners who are supporting the organization, like the banks and so on. So these are the people segment. And then we have the process segment, where we have internal processes, and each company or organization needs to work to improve these internal processes. So this is one segment. Another one is the collaboration that was mentioned several times here. So collaboration between the private and public sector, collaboration between the public organizations, but we cannot forget also the industry-specific processes that we have also in the public sector, like the investigate case management for police administration, or defense solutions for defense operations, or tax and revenue management, or budget planning. So we have a lot of best practices there. But the main challenge that we have currently is the data. So there are data that are generated from these all internal systems. Then there are a lot of external data that we need to analyze, generated by social media, for example. And as well as a lot of data recently are also generated by the things. So our main challenge is to merge those data. To merge the data from internal resources, from external resources, and also from the things, and link them to the people and the process. So this intelligence means the next level of automation. So there are two main drivers, I would say, that we are improving efficiencies or we are generating some new line of businesses, or we are doing disruption. Like we have heard in the previous discussion with the banks and, for example, with telco businesses and so on, there is a disruption of some industries, and as well as there is a potential also as well as for the public sector. So these are the main, and then, what we are also doing, we are merging these three segments and basically using not only one technology, but more technologies that is able to read data, to interpret data, and also to recommend what needs to be done. So basically to improve the automation. And for this, we have recently also possibility to utilize the hardware and the software, and to utilize the data with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, with blockchain, with Internet of Things. So this is something that brings the next value to the process and to the people within the organization. So this is something how we have seen and what intelligence means. So that's regarding this enabling conditions are definitely the challenge is how to consume data, how to merge them, and how to interpret those data to link to the people and the process within the organization. Regarding the strengths of IT sector, so currently at the moment we are lacking, based on some research, about 30,000 professionals in IT field, definitely here in Serbia, and we are also, there is an improvement recently a lot. There is a progress in this field, so we are supporting, for example, elementary school. There is a program called Battle for Knowledge. In the primary school, we are working with the children, because children are born with smartphones, so they are very much close to these new technologies. So we are learning children for robotics and programming languages. But also we are working very close with the faculties. There is a University Alliance program that we have signed with Mechanical and Technical University of Belgrade, and also an economical university where the students are teaching, and it's part of the program also the learning the SAP. So that's, and as well as we are discussing with this community, there is still the gap in the secondary school, because in the secondary school there is a potential that we get more and more enabled students, at the faculties. So this is just from my side.
Thank you very much. Mr. Despotovsky, you've been supporting the tech sector. Your agency has been funding and supporting the tech sector in Macedonia, North Macedonia, for a while now. What can you tell us? What works, what doesn't work? Where do you see the successes?
Thank you very much for having us here, and thanks for the audience for listening us while the launch is ongoing outside. I will try to be very short. We have been expanding our financial programs. When I say we, I mean the government of North Macedonia in the past year and a half, 2 years. In the last year, we have allocated approximately 20 million euros for co-financing grants for different segments of the economy. It's not only allocated for startups, we practically try to promote, support companies to develop innovation in every area possible. Of course, as you might expect, out of the 20 million that we have contracted out on our side, the companies provide additional 16 million on their side. Approximately 60% of the companies are IT-based, meaning that there is a lot of activities currently, a lot of projects currently which are developed by the IT sector in the country, which I would expect that in the very short period of time, next 6, 9, 12 months, will actually generate results, some visible results in terms of products being developed. Some of the products are actually aimed to be utilized by the public sector. And as I said, for us, it was a very useful year and a half, learning that it's not only political talk, it's not only political commitment, but also, as the people in the States say, put the money where your mouth is, meaning that you need to put some money there so that companies can actually see it and can see your commitment, that you're serious in supporting them. What we have been developing in parallel is, which is relevant to the topic of today, which is the open data, is a program where we actually promote digitalization of the public sector. There has been a lot of initiatives and projects in the past years. I think our Minister of IT and some of the representatives from the Ministry have been discussing in the past 2 days through various panels about what is going on in that area. I can only say that we are trying to develop a new program, which is also fairly new in Europe, and this is public procurement and innovation, as a concept where the public sector needs only to state what is its need, how to become more efficient, and what can be expected from a certain system or IT tool that should be developed for its needs. And then it is the IT sector, then it is the economy that comes up actually with a solution. So unlike the normal public procurement procedure where a certain civil servant or a technical consultant coming from I don't know where sits and prepares the technical specification, prepares the solution, we only define the need, and then we actually asked the IT companies, the local IT companies, to compete with different solutions. The outcome of the process, and we selected one of the complex ministries, the Ministry of Transport and Communication. We have selected one area which is fairly complex, and it's very relevant for the overall transparency of the system, and this is a system to automatically process issuing of transportation licenses, which is a huge business in the country. It's huge business in the region, it's huge business everywhere. Expert people, so not IT experts, but people that are actually doing this work in the ministry, stated how the system should look like, and what should be its key features, and what should be the key documents that should go in, and what should be the formula through which the system will actually generate the outcomes. We opened up a call, we put some money into the call, and then we had a number of fairly large IT companies from the country competing with different solutions, and then it was the ministry itself, along with representatives from our fund, and also from the end users, which are the truckers associations, actually selected one of the solutions, and now currently the solution is being implemented. What came out from the process is actually that it lasted only a few months in total, unlike a normal traditional public procurement procedure that can take months. So it took us approximately three months in total to finalize this, and then the outcome was that we got a solution for which we are paying 40% less than it was paid for the same system, previous version, 10 years ago. Meaning that we actually got a cheaper solution through a competition and through offering of different solutions from the companies. Actually, I'm looking forward to see how will this be implemented in the course of next month, because the system is currently being developed. But this model is actually now, we are going to try to replicate this model throughout the public service. What we are trying to do is identify the priorities, let's say, in the EU accession process, where many institutions have identified certain IT tools which are necessary to improve their efficiency. And on this list, we are actually going to try to pilot this model of public procurement in innovation, basically to involve the economy, to involve the startups, to involve large IT companies as well, to take part into the process and also earn money on the basis of that. It is also interesting that the company that's developing the system actually will need to give the IP rights for the local use of the system to the ministry, which is normal because there is no other Ministry of Transport and Communications in the country, but it can keep it and sell the system if it wants to be applied, say, in Serbia, Albania, doesn't matter, meaning that they can still, they're earning the money on developing the system, but they can also earn the money on selling the system abroad. This was also part of, this was actually one of the reasons why we actually also defined the digitalization of the society through partnership with the private sector, as one of the key pillars of the new Science and Technology Park that has actually been launched recently in Skopje. We had EU Commissioner Gabriel attending the event. This new Science and Technology Park in Skopje will generate investments of approximately 80 million in the next 8 years. And as I said, one of the three main pillars of the park will be actually digitalization of the society, where the digitalization of the public sector is actually a vital component. But as I said, we are not going to do the digitalization of the public sector, opening the public sector, making it more accountable and more efficient by using foreign consultants only. We are trying to use it through partnership with other actors in the society, which is the economy and the civil sector as well, which are at the end of the day users of the public services. So I'll stop here.
So, Ms. Bajic, Montenegro recently renewed its commitment to the OGP, strengthened its commitment around open data as well. What can you tell us in terms of what are the impacts that you're expecting to gain from that?
Thank you, Leila. Thanks for possibility to speak in a digital summit about that important issue. Because I have a short period of time, I will use Western Balkan language to tell more words about the things that I think our situation in Montenegro, just to explain and maybe propose some initiative for Western Balkan economies. Znači, kada govorimo o podacima u Crnoj Gori, mogu da kažem da je dosta urađeno u prethodnom periodu. Svesni smo potencijala podataka i neophodnosti bavljanja podacima, baš u smislu i u cilju razvoja digitalne ekonomije. Podaci su nafta i to je nešto što je činjenica, ali ne samo kao materijalna vrednost. Oni su iz naše vizure i vizure svih koji se bavimo ovim poslom, pokretači, odnosno generatori promjena u društvu, promjena u javnoj upravi. Kako se digitalna ekonomija reflektuje na javnu upravu? Tako što će taj ogroman set podataka koji se nalazi u javnoj upravi biti na pravi način iskorišćen da se on jednom, da taj set podataka jednom nastane i koristi se svuda u sistemu. Kako sam ja predstavnik javne uprave i kako na ovaj deo gledam iz ugla i iz vizure javne uprave, šta je potrebno da bi sve to funkcionisalo u državi, a počelo se o tome razmišljati početkom pregovora sa Evropskom komisijom, je kako da normativno se sve usaglasi da postoji obaveza otvaranja podataka, da ta obaveza bude normirana na pravi način, da ta obaveza bude definisana tako da se zna šta, ko, u kojem formatu otvara i da postoje tehničke pretpostavke da podaci budu dostupni svim zainteresovanim stranama. Šta smo mi uradili? Bukvalno smo išli tim putem, normirali smo, stvorili smo pretpostavke da svi organi vlasti mogu da otvaraju podatke. Za to tehnički ne postoje nikakve prepreke. Za sada to radimo samostalno sa organima vlasti. Nemamo još uvek podršku partnera, ali to definitivno moramo da pokrenemo i možemo da kažemo sa zadovoljstvom da je taj posao zaista krenuo nekim tokom koji je i nas prijatno iznenadio, jer su organi vlasti, kako se to kaže u tom zakonu, odnosno svi državni organi državne uprave, prepoznali potencijal otvaranja podataka. Znači, kako može da unapredi poslovanje i otvorenost podataka u državi, odnosno u javnoj upravi, na način da se smanjuje obim posla. Jer jednostavno to što jednom već postoji u sistemu, nema potrebe da se razmenjuje, da se dostavlja drugim organima, već je to jedan potencijal koji cirkuliše između organa i revidira poslovne procese. Tako da mi vidimo i uopšte mislim da je to put korišćenja podataka u organima javne uprave, da se definišu standardi za njihovo korišćenje, da se definiše tehnička platforma kako bi oni zaista nesmetano išli. Šta smo radili da bi to postigli? Napravljen je sistem za elektronsku razmjenu podataka, normativno je to već ranije definisano, da nema potrebe da se nijedan podatak zahtijeva u sistemu, već da se on po službenoj dužnosti između organa razmenjuje. Ovo je korak više. U poslednjih pola godine od kako je portal postavljen, organi se sami javljaju, napravili smo jedan koordinacioni tim koji prati kako se ti podaci objavljuju i koji jednostavno razmatra koji su podaci prioritetni za objavljivanje i u tom smislu taj broj data setova svakodnevno raste. Strategija jedinstvenog digitalnog tržišta, mi smo članice koje još uvijek pregovaramo za ulazak u Europsku uniju, posmatrači u tom radnom tijelu, ali dobijamo preporuke iz koje strategija, na dokumente koje ta strategija i odnosno koje radni tim usvaja. Oni stalno ukazuju na potencijal digitalne ekonomije. Znači, potencijal digitalne ekonomije, odnosno potencijal podataka je enorman i on se bazira na milionskim iznosima. Šta mi u javnoj upravi možemo da uradimo? Možemo da podstaknemo da ti podaci koje mi generišemo budu zaista dostupni svim građanima, zainteresovanim stranama, pravnim licima, da ih konzumiraju na način koji je za njih potpuno besplatan, jednostavan i tehnički podržan. I upravo na tome radimo. Na portalu se svakodnevno povećava taj broj data setova. Planiramo da kroz postupak, odnosno kroz unapređenje elektronske demokratije, kroz prisustvo Crne Gore u Open Government Partnershipu, podstaknemo zaista krajnje korisnike da i oni proaktivno učestvuju sa nama, da oni kažu kojim to podaci trebaju, da na portalu nije bitan broj data setova koji se nalazi. Bitno je da se na tim portalima otvorenih formata, odnosno podataka otvorenih formata, nađu podaci koji su zaista korisni svima i koji će moći sutra da iskoriste baš predstavnici srednjeg i malog biznisa za dalji razvoj svojih biznisa. Cilj nam je da ove godine organizujemo najmanje jedan hakaton, cilj nam je da se regionalno povežemo i jutro smo imali recimo jedan izvanredan sastanak gde smo razgovarali o regionalnoj saradnji vezano za temu cyber bezbednosti i definisanja platforme. Mislim da i u ovom dijelu treba da postoji regionalna saradnja i da se napravi jednostavno jedna platforma koja će pomoći svim ekonomijama Zapadnog Balkana da na pravi način, po naravno definisanim protokolima, definisanim standardima, mogu da objavljuju svoje podatke, da ih sutra po potrebi u skladu sa otvorenim standardima razmenjuju, ali da jednostavno sve što može da bude objavljeno na način da se može mašinski pročitati, bude dostupno svima, što će zaista biti generator promjena i pokazati pravu vrednost i materijalnu i ovu drugu otvorenih podataka.
Maybe we can open it up for questions from the audience. It's a little bit hard to see, so stand up if you have any questions. For our speakers, no questions. Well, I wanted to draw out from the discussion that we've been having, draw out three broad points that I hear coming across from all the speakers. One of them about actually needing technical collaboration in a way, so talking quite a bit about interoperability. I wanted to bring out something we've been working together with EBRD and the Open Contracting Partnership with in Serbia around implementing OCDS, the Open Contracting Data Standard, which would allow for greater communication between different parts, different levels of governments in the region as well. And similar efforts are taking place as well in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo as well. The other angle that I hear is around political collaboration, if you wish, right? Like the continued ongoing, building on the ongoing momentum that happened with the agreement on roaming, and continuing to do that in other areas of digital economy as well, whether it's around data exchanges or whether it's around how we learn and how actually opening up that knowledge bases in what we heard in the beginning around the collaboration that's already happening on academic papers as well. And the third one around, the third thing that I hear is, that I heard at least, is around innovation. Building the knowledge economy being a key ingredient in the way that we're going to be able to move towards a new economy. And the need, and from my experience as well on open data, one of the biggest benefits of it has been to stimulate a lot of young people to engage with data, as well as cleaning up, I would say, the data that is published by public institutions. And on that, I think what's really important, and it comes from some of the research that we've done, is around how do we build the edge of skills. So we know that there's the people in the region are very well versed in tech. We see a very dynamic tech sector, but I think there's potential to build on more around the things that are really at the cutting edge. How do you build the skills to build on blockchain? How do you build the skills for machine learning, for artificial intelligence, spatial computing, which are at the edge and which will bring the biggest value added. So there's quite a bit, I think, happening in bringing it up to a macro level, to a regional collaboration, to more regional collaboration across the different sectors. And because I think we're coming close to the edge of this panel, I wanted to quickly ask you to reflect on where do you see the potential for more regional collaboration? And maybe quickly as well, do you see actually a demand, especially for people coming here from governments, do you see a demand from the private sector to use the open data, for purposes, for developing new businesses, as well as just a proposition, if you would be open to next year, when we have the summit in Tirana, that we hold the Regional Open Data Challenge, bringing together on a particular sector, whether it's fintech or whatever we decide as a community is necessary, whether you'd be willing to commit to that. So maybe we can start from the end this time.
Mislim da smo uspeli onoliko koliko smo korisni građanima, privredi i državi. I u onoj meri, ukoliko pokažemo da smo značajni njima, uspeće i koncept otvorenih podataka i naša regionalna saradnja. Navešću samo jedan primer da smo, na primer, u našem slučaju podatke o saobraćajnim nesrećama u Beogradu postavili na geoportal i videli smo da ispred jedne osnovne škole je znak pogrešno postavljen i da ispred te osnovne škole se dešava mnogo više saobraćajnih udesa i da mala deca stradaju. Zahvaljujući tome država je odreagovala i pomerila je samo taj znak 20 metara dalje i smanjile su se nesreće. U onoj meri koliko doprinesemo građanima i privredi, a naravno i samim tim i državi, naš koncept otvorenih podataka će uspeti.
Pa mislim da je neophodna regionalna saradnja u domenu otvorenih podataka. U stvari je možda i inicijativa krenula baš kroz regionalnu saradnju, kroz posjete raznim forumima, skupovima na kojima smo se i svi malo bliže upoznavali sa rezultatima uspešnih država koji se s ovim sreću već duži period, u prethodnom periodu su bili upoznati sa tom problematikom. Kad ćemo uspeti? Neka vizija nas koji se bavimo ovim podacima i uopšte informaciono-komunikacijnim tehnologijama dugo je da je uspjeh onda kada budemo eliminisali papir. Znači kada svi podaci koji budu u raznim sistemima, bilo u pojedinim ekonomijama ili između njih se razmenjivali, kada dođemo do situacije da nam ne treba nijedan papir, nego da je to sve što je negde pohranjeno kako treba i da se razmenjuje kroz sistem, računam da je to uspjeh i otvorenih podataka, interoperabilnosti i naravno da je zaživjela ta, da kažem, data ekonomija, ne samo digitalna.
I like the idea to organize the regional competition. I like the idea you mentioned for last year of a challenge, but I will bring another element into it. Instead of having teams organized on national basis, you should have, basically the criteria should be that there should be at least participants from 2 countries within a team, so the team can be eligible to compete. Why? Because one, we can make better use of the human resources, which are throughout the region, and 2, eventually, once a certain product is developed and possibly even awarded, then it can go for a market of 20 million instead of a market of 2 or less than 2 and 6 and I don't know. So let's try to use that approach and make it a real regional competition. But yes.
So we have this one more.
Yep.
We heard a lot about collaboration, that is good, that it's foundation, and that this is something that we are recognized like based on the best practices that we are bringing as a software. But I think what we have now possibility to create the next practice, if we just collaborate, if we have regulation, set it up and so on. And also this domain knowledge is very much important. So this collaboration, also the domain knowledge is combining with the new technologies that we can utilize now. It's something that it will bring the next practice. So I'm sure. Thank you.
Well, it's all very well to like the challenge. I think it will be up to us to actually embrace it. So I'll say it from the start that yes, the idea is very much part and parcel of the vision of having more transparency of public services, but also integrating our systems regionally. That's the initial vision. And I think we would need, again, more collaboration, not only between us and this political will, because we are talking about very, very important questions, but also very sensitive domains, about having all data accessible and having them integrated. So that, when I mentioned the example of a member state like Italy, according to which the data, their authorities, the data is different from our data about how much their investment is in the country. Now let's imagine that for a market, for a regional market, how challenging that will be. So we need that political will. But at the same time, and I liked the second component you mentioned, the skills and literacy of people and how we build that depository of skills for the region, not only nationally. And I think it is an issue and a challenge we have across our 6 countries, that we have lost already a very valuable generation of people who are investing in telecommunications, in key strategic areas related to digitalization and innovation. Now we have to invest from the beginning in that domain. So what would be very important here, it would be to think strategically about having niches of skills in the region and to invest more and to work more with universities, hand in hand with private actors, but I think involving the universities would be a necessity in this connection. So yes, we take the challenge, but we only can take it if we have everyone on board in this.
With a disclaimer and a commitment, both of those in this. Yeah, and that's a challenge in itself. Well, if there are no further questions from the audience, I don't think I see raised hands. I would like to ask you kindly to give a round of applause to our distinguished speakers. And we end on a positive note on the need for more cooperation and clearly a lot of investment as well. So I guess we'll see you next year in Tirana.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.